The colors are all so beautiful, I say, and the faces around me smile, pleased. A man leans over me, staring intently into my eyes, which have just started working for the first time since I was born. How do you feel? Any headaches or nausea? He has an older, kind face. I recognize his voice as the doctor that attended me since I checked into the hospital, and he shines as bright as the others. A kind of luminescence that sends trails of color as he moves. I shake my head. No, I'm just a little. I pause to think of exactly what this feeling is. Excited, but still with a bit of hesitation. I swallow. It's a little disorienting. There's an old saying about not being able to explain color to a blind person, but I've always been different. I imagine color, dream in color, as if it's some kind of long, lost memory locked away, but not forgotten. That's what it feels like now. Looking at the world is like trying to recall a half-forgotten event from long ago. The glowing doctor smiles. That's expected. Take a few minutes, get adjusted slowly. Your family is here. An older woman inches towards me, tears in her shining face. Her steps are as light as a bird on a windowsill, the same steps my mother always uses when she's worried. Annabelle, what do you see? I smile at my mother, each tear a prism of color and light sparkling on her face. I can see you, Mom. I smile, and she rushes forward, squeezing me into a familiar and comforting hug. Over my mother's shoulder, I see the woman in the bed next to me. We've talked briefly over the last few days, while I sat bandaged, waiting until I recovered enough from the surgery to test my new eyes. She's going in for brain surgery later today. Pretty, with a lean frame and bangs that frame her face, she is looking at me and smiling with the others at the good news of my sight. But there is something drastically different about her. Shelby, why aren't you in color? Mid-hug, my mother stiffens. The doctor gently pulls her back and shines a small penlight in my eyes, flicking it in and out of my field of vision. What do you mean Shelby's not in color? I study her closer. The bed, the sheets, the gown. Everything she touches is a deep gray, as is Shelby herself. She frowns, concern crossing her features. The doctor turns to her. Shelby, would you mind coming over here, please? Shelby slides her legs out of bed and stands, making her way over to me. As the last of the sheet slips from her body, the bed turns back to color, although it doesn't have the shining light that the people in the room do. The other doctors standing quietly to the side of the room scribble on their charts. Please, Annabelle, the first doctor begins, looking through a handheld device, peering through it with one of his eyes into my faulty one. Look carefully at Shelby and see if there's still a difference up close. Yes, I answer without hesitation. The room is full of colors. Everyone else in the room is shining. I can see Shelby clearly, but she is in black and white. There are no colors. The doctor puts down his instruments and turns back to Shelby. Thank you for your help. You can sit down. The anesthesiologist will be in soon to prep you. Is Anna going to be okay? She asks, sliding back under the covers, draining the color from everything she touches. The doctor turns back to me. Of course. There are a lot of new pathways that need to develop between the eyes and the brain. But to be safe, I want to take you to get an MRI and a few other tests done. Just to look at what's going on. And so begins a long series of events I've become too accustomed to during my stay in the hospital. Trips to different parts of the massive building, filling out the same forms and confirming the same information over and over. I peek into other patients' rooms during my trip. Some patients are in vibrant color, others in black and white. After the afternoon slips away into a string of inconclusive tests, an orderly finally wheels me back to my room to rest. Shelby is gone, already in surgery. So I settle into my half of the room. I barely pick up my Braille book from the side table when my mother is back in the room, rushing towards my bed. "Have you been here the whole time, Mom? Why don't you go home for a bit? I have some bad news for you, sweetie. Your roommate, Shelby. Her surgery didn't go well. The doctors came by to let us know she didn't make it. I thought it would be easier if you heard it from me." I blink back a few tears that spring to my eyes and look towards Shelby's now empty bed. I only knew her for a few days, but she was nice, and it's difficult when death touches so close. "Thank you for telling me, Mom. I'll be okay. I'd actually like a bit of time to myself. Go home, you have to be exhausted." My mother smiles weakly, massaging her shoulder and down her left arm. She takes a deep breath, coughs a bit, and tries to take another one, sighing. "Maybe you're right. I could use some sleep." As she turns around, the small beads of sweat around her hairline and brow are the first things to change. The rainbow prism of color pulls back into the drops of sweat, taking all the color with them. From the center of her chest outward, the color leaks and drains until she, too, is only black and white. She is almost out of the room before I yell in terror, "No, Mom. Stay here in the hospital with me.